everyone, hope you've had a good Christmas. It's New Year's Eve, the time where we bring in the new year and say goodbye to the old one. It's been a pretty rubbish year, to be honest. Last year was pretty rubbish as well. This time, many of us do resolutions. Most of those resolutions get scrapped before the end of January. I will be doing some resolutions, hopefully they won't be scrapped. But before I do so, I want to share my gratitude for this year and the things that I've been through, the things that I've learned. For most, including myself, this has been an incredibly tough year. I've been through so many lows, like being unable to see family members, having to restrict who I visit and my activities outdoors, and having a crazy work life, which has probably been the biggest blow to my mental health, just because I'm a frontline worker. And the only thing that would stop me actually going to work is being unwell. So whilst other areas may shut down, we have to work no matter what happens. So you might think this meant my year has just been awful and that's it, there's been no good in this year, but not exactly. Back in September, my mum fell and fractured her hip. Now that was tough for me because I was just hit with a barrage of emotions. They were all coming at me kind of like this, and I didn't know what to think. The result was that I had to quit my job and leave London, which is where I was living at the time, simply because my mum needed support. She'd been in hospital for a few weeks, but she needed someone to look after her. And of course, there are people in her life that could help her, but she needed someone that was less than 10 minutes away. If she fell, thank goodness she hasn't, she needed someone that could be there for her. And given just the fact that I had been working a lot over the whole pandemic, some long hours and, some odd hours, some unusual hours, which might be evening shifts, which really, for some people, can mess up your sleep cycle, can kind of intervene with your personal life and your social life. Not much for social life during the pandemic, but kind of having that situation with my mum falling was tough. Whilst many of you will be thinking, okay, that's really, really tough. That's the cherry on top of the most awful year probably you have had in life. Actually, it wasn't. And the reason was it gave me the chance to see my year without interruption. What do I mean by that? Well, my work situation was less than desirable, and I think it was really interrupting my breathing space. It was really interrupting my breathing space. And so going down to support my mum like I'd never supported her before by the sea really helped, because I was uninterrupted in my processing of this year and 3/4, roughly the time of the pandemic. If I had something I wanted to process whilst I was in London, I wouldn't have that much space to process things, and I'd be processing, then I'd have work. And of course, work was in the evening, so when I finished work, I would most likely be going straight to bed, and the next morning I would have forgotten quite a fair chunk of what I was processing and have to almost restart. Whereas being by the south coast with no commitments to work, I was and have been truly able to process things, see them for what they are, see the real outcome of a situation, what really happened, be able to see things that were not my fault, things that were really difficult and there were very little solutions to them and you had to do one thing or the other, or things that were my fault but actually I've learned from them or I'm learning from them. Also see the negative people in my life, see people whose maybe just mere presence made me feel uncomfortable. Those people that would give you bad advice, those people that would make you feel uncomfortable with what they said. You might not have thought it at the time as, hurtful, but then you process these things and you actually see, oh, Actually, that wasn't a very nice thing to say. That was not a very helpful response. As I said, that advice wasn't really helpful. But I've had the time to process it. I've had the time to go through the scenarios and just be able to see actually who I am, what's okay for me, and what isn't okay for me. And I think that's been very, very important. I think a lot throughout the past few years in my life, I've been through situations that have really defined, okay, this is okay, and that's not okay. And really, this is kind of, added the finishing touches to that, I suppose. I think I've really grown more comfortable in my own skin than I've ever been. I think a lot of people have seen that. Seen, like what I'm wearing. Really feeling comfortable in that and owning that, knowing what really suits me, what I can wear. I think in the past, I know far, far, far back into the past, there would be times where I'd see clothes and I'd think, I don't think it suits me, or I don't deserve to wear those clothes. I'm not good enough for those clothes. And I think I'm feeling so much more comfortable with the clothes, knowing actually these clothes suit me. Who says they don't suit me? Who says that I'm not good enough to wear these clothes? And some of the clothes might be a little more feminine. I'm like, who says I can't wear these clothes? Actually, I look good and feel good in them. And I think that's very important to me, to be who I am, uninterrupted. And that's what this space has given me. Also, it's kind of, I have no commitments, I have no ties. I'm looking for graphic design work currently at the moment. There's no commitment to a certain city. I can go wherever I wish to go, which is quite exciting, after this new year. Of course, there are many kind of worries that you have inside your head, is that will this situation, how long will it go on for? You don't get stuck in a situation where you don't move on. And of course, that has been a worry, especially with my fatigue. Lots of you know that I have fatigue, and sometimes I can procrastinate. And so, that's a worry that I have had going through life, that I'll just be so tired that I won't get as much done as I would like to. But I think, really, in the previous situation that I was in, was a lot worse for my tiredness. This is actually allowing me to kind of have less pressure and more time to myself, which really helps, with the tiredness. I guess this brings me on to what I'm most grateful for this year, which is pretty simple. The situation with my mum, as tough as it was, it gave me the space to really evaluate my self-worth and see actually how much I'm worth, see my high value, to be so much more comfortable in my own skin than I ever was. I met one of my best friends in late February of this year, and we've been through a lot together, and I'm grateful for what that journey taught me. I'm grateful for the strong bond that me and him have together, the fact that we are pretty much a family. I'm grateful for the friends that I already have, and the fact that they really have been there for me. And I like to think of my true friends as my family, because they really behave like any family member should. And I think that's important to know who your friends and your family are, and who aren't your friends, who aren't your family members. Even though they might be, blood related, that doesn't mean they are really your family. Maybe it's just words. If they behave badly and they don't respect you, like you hopefully respect those people in your life that care about you. I'm grateful for some of the people that I have worked with that have really made work a more bearable place. I'm grateful for everyone around that has helped in this pandemic, helped those in need, Grateful for those who have made this pandemic the slightest bit more bearable. Those on the front line, like the doctors and nurses, who have dealt with so much crap over the past year and 3/4, administering vaccines, helping those suffering with COVID, helping those that aren't suffering with COVID, dealing with those who are COVID deniers, anti-vaxxers, which is pretty emotionally draining, you know. Those sweeping the streets, those dustmen collecting the bins. It may seem like small things, but when you think about it, throughout this whole pandemic, they've been there. They have not stopped, you know. Supermarket workers, I'm sure there are so many I could mention that have really, really been vital during this time, and without them, where would we be? Also, I guess to have my health. That's one big thing. To have good physical health, you know. I'm so lucky for that. Because so many people, their physical health isn't that great as a result of the pandemic, has gotten bad or has been bad pre the pandemic, and the pandemic has really not helped. And you know, with the lockdown, it can be very tough for those with bad physical health. So I'm just so grateful for what I have learned, for who I am. Anyway, thank you so much for listening.